All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am super excited about our keynote today. It's someone that I know personally. We went to college together. He travels all over the United States and is a motivational speaker and someone that you will not want to miss. So I'm so glad that you're here with us. But I'm going to go ahead and do your awesome introduction. So don't you get started yet, okay? Okay, so today we have with us Willie Spears. He's a professional author and motivational speaker with 20 years of educational experience as a teacher, coach, and administrator. He has served in schools that always meet adequate yearly progress and schools that almost never meet AYP. Willie earned his bachelor's degree in communications from Northwestern Oklahoma State University and his master's degree in education from Troy University. He has written 8 books, and his weekly syndicated column appears in several newspapers and websites. And he is working on his doctorate degree. And I will tell you that his children are also amazing. His daughter is also a published author. He is just an amazing person. Willie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure, can you all see my screen?
Yep, we see you.
Okay, can you see my PowerPoint?
I cannot see your PowerPoint.
Okay, I'm working on sharing my screen, but it's great to be here with you all. I've been listening in and learning so much. Dr. Kat Carr taught me a lot about our environment and how important it is. Just yesterday, my son was running away from a bee. And I learned today that we need the bees to survive. And so it was great to get that information. Dr. Shipley, can you see my PowerPoint presentation now?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, well, today we're going to be talking about creating culture by formulating strategic plans that produce conducive learning environments for all early learners. This is a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. I spoke the other day at an early childhood education conference here in my hometown of Panama City, Florida. And what was so unique is one of my former students was in the audience and one of my former Head Start teachers was in the very same audience. And so that was a surreal moment for me. My wife is the new director at Ohana Institute. It's a brand new early childhood education school in Walton County, Florida, very near to our home. If you're familiar with this area, near Destin, Florida, Inlet Beach area, it's awesome. It's on 30A. And I say that because our family has now, they'll be in full tilt to learn more about how to educate all early learners. As a coach, I spent time in many different environments coaching, and I was in a lot of different settings, and I learned so much about how to reach the unreachable and how to teach the unteachable. And you all know this, if we start early, we can do a great job of changing the world. I often say that what young people learn from kindergarten age and below, and from the age of 15 to 25, if you can get 1 to 5 right and 15 to 25 right, I believe your life will be much better because of the things you learn early and the choices you make later in life. And so today we're going to explore this great opportunity to speak with you all. I'm very thankful to this global campus at the University of Arizona for allowing me this opportunity, and thankful for Dr. Hill and Dr. Shipley. If you haven't checked out their podcast, I'm telling you, it's 10 minutes of power. You can listen to it on your way to work, and I guarantee you that day, you're going to have an amazing day at work. It won't be ordinary. It'll be extraordinary. So please check out the podcast. I was honored to be one of their guests. Today, we're going to talk about 3 strategies to add value to early learners. We're going to talk about lesson plans, talk about the literacy legacy. Is there a legacy when it comes to your way of teaching and literacy? They should be connected. We all know this. If a child can read well when they're going into kindergarten, they're going to have a much better chance of having success in elementary school, middle school, and high school. When I was an administrator in high school and we saw students who did not do well on standardized tests, it was always because of their lack of confidence in reading. So we're going to talk about the importance of having a legacy when it comes to literacy. And of course, classroom culture. We're going to talk about how the world has changed and we need to change with the world. You can't use a lesson plan you used 15 years ago. You can't use the lesson plans you used 5 years ago. Your lesson plans need to be updated and current And we need to appreciate the opportunity we have to teach young people, especially after coming from the year we just came from. Now, I want you to do this for me. A little participation. You may be a little hungry depending on where you live. Out there on the West Coast, it's 12:30. All on the East Coast, it's 3:30. Somewhere in the middle, maybe 2:30 or 1:30, but you may be hungry. So I want you to put in the chat right now, if you would, your Subway order. When you go to Subway, what do you order? Or maybe Mike Subs, or maybe Jimmy John's, or maybe Firehouse Sub. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat, please put down what you order when you go to Subway. Now, when I go to Subway, I know my order right off the bat. I walk in there, I tell them what I want, how I want my bread, if I want it toasted or not toasted, what kind of meat I want, what type of dressing I would like on it, and would I like a Coke, sweet tea, drink, or chips. I believe that's true of all of us. I believe we know, oh, I see your order, that's nice, that's nice. I believe we know what we want. Some of you all are making me hungry. I see you, Andrew, I see you, Vince, okay, nice, nice, Lisa, okay, yep, 6-inch, whole wheat, turkey, breast with tomatoes, okay, nice, tuna on wheat, very nice, very nice. What I realize is we all know what we want when we go to Subway. Like we know exactly what we want when we go to Subway. So when we go to Subway, we know what we want. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to say, give me a menu. We don't have to say, give me a minute. We know exactly what we want. And I don't want to judge anybody on this call, but I can just tell how quick you answer. You guys are great eaters. You may be great educators, but you're great eaters as well. I can just tell how quick you answer the question. You're great eaters. That sandwich is only gonna last a few minutes. That sandwich is not gonna last a long time. That sandwich is only gonna last a few minutes. But let me ask you this. If we have a plan for a sandwich, shouldn't we have a plan for our classroom? Shouldn't we have a plan for the changing things that's happening in our world? If we have a plan for a sandwich, shouldn't we have a plan for the culture of our classroom and our learning experience? Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for the first day of school, the second day of school? I tell you one thing I've learned, those first 10 days of school are very, very important. Those first 10 days, you're gonna set the culture for the whole year. I was a young teacher in my early 20s, and a guy by the name of Greg Rivers came to me. He said to me, Willie, you need to be mean. And I was a teacher in high school. You need to be mean those first few days, because if they know you can be mean, and by mean, he meant strict, he meant organized. If they know you can go there, then you can be nice most of the year, because they know you can always go back to that. But you can't start off letting them running you over and then try to show that you have discipline and order in your classroom. He was giving me this advice because I was 22 years old and I was a fish out of water in that brand new classroom. I want to give you some quick tips for the first few days of school. There's some real quick tips for the first few days of school. Make sure you understand that quality is more important than quantity. Sometimes we try to put too much information in them first few days. And I'm talking about these pre-K classrooms, these early childhood education classrooms. Next, make sure that you don't have too much stuff in your centers. Every gadget you have for the young people, every project that you have, there's no need to do all of that in the first week, in the first 10 days. Next up, don't do a lot of product art early. This is why. Glitter can be messy. Glue can be messy. Well, putting pasta on plates, all those things, some people say don't do it at all. But if you're going to do those things, don't do them the first few days of school. If you're worried about your administration having proof that you're doing your job, just take pictures. The next thing is, and this is very important, ignore the people next door. Ignore trying to keep up with everyone else. Be your unique self. Work on your class. Don't worry about what the other teachers are doing. Now, if there's a teacher in the building that has been teacher of the year, that have a lot of experience, of course, you want to bend their ear. You want to learn from them, but you don't want to have to copy anybody's model. Learn to do your thing and take from others. My father would always say, chew up the meat and spit out the bones. The last thing is, have a plan for every activity. How are we going to line up for lunch? How are we going to line up from the bathroom? Are we going to sing a song? Are we going to say, everybody with the blue shirt, get in line, get in line. Everybody with the blue shirt, get in line. Like, what's going to be your plan? It's too important for you to wing it. It's too big of a job. Like, we can't miss. These young people need us. When I worked in middle schools, when I spent some time evaluating teachers in elementary schools, what we found out instantly you could tell if a young person had come from a great early childhood education environment. If a child had come from a great environment, we could tell by the way they act, the way they talk, the way they responded to others, their social skills, their mental capacity, and of course, their academic skills. 3 strategies to add value to early learners. Lesson plans. Lesson plans, creating culture by formulating strategic plans that produce conducive learning environments for all early learners. The key word there is all. My wife went to pre-K with a woman that's now my daughter's teacher. So my daughter is in the 11th grade. One of her teachers went to pre-K with my wife. Isn't that something? And they remember each other. They're both successful in the realm of education because they both went to great pre-K. They both went to great early childhood education learning institutions. I say that because my wife was an easy student in high school. I mean, every teacher loved my wife. She's going to be in the front row. She's going to sharpen all her pencils. They say, did you read chapter 3 last night? She's like, oh, I read chapter 3, 4, and 5. Would you like me to give you a synopsis? Me, on the other hand, I'm in the back of the classroom and I didn't even know we're supposed to read chapter 3. I don't understand why we should take our books home. So children develop at different stages, but children who have great education at an early age end up being excellent citizens, excellent contributors to society. Now, here's an example of a lesson plan. And you've all seen a lesson plan, but I want to walk through some key factors of great lesson plans. First of all, let's start with the 4 A's of effective lesson plans. A, activate prior knowledge. In other words, find out what they know already. Do they know their shapes? Do they know their colors? Do they know personal information? Can they tell you their first and last name? Now, my dad would be embarrassed for you to know this, but I didn't know my name was Willie until the 1st grade. To the 1st grade. My name is Willie Spears. I didn't know that until the 1st grade. In in kindergarten and pre-K, what we call Head Start over 25 years ago, and you all know the Head Start program started over 50 years ago, and now we've developed it until what we have now, early childhood education. My middle name is David. Everyone in my family called me David. That's all I knew. David. That was my name. And so I had to actually go to the office. I went to the front office and they had to explain to me, so your name is Willie. I said, no, the lady didn't call my name. Miss Harvey, my 1st grade teacher, she called Willie Spears. My name is David Spears. I don't know the other person, but they said, sir, young man, your name is Willie Spears. We had to call my dad at work. My dad had to explain to them because everyone in my family called me Little David. My dad was Big David. I was Little David. Some of the students in your class, they get called a nickname. So they may only know their nickname in pre-K. So you have to teach them what their real name is, the name that's on their birth certificate. Sometimes we take a lot for granted because many of us come from what many will call middle-class environments. If you've read that book by Dr. Ruby Payne about the frameworks of understanding poverty, many teachers come from what I call a 2-car garage and a sprinkler system. They come from a middle-class environment, and it's hard for us to understand how come Johnny can't do this project at home and how come his parents can't bring these materials. And you have the internet, they may not. You have the ability to go to Walmart anytime you want, they may not. And so when I say let's reach all learners, that's learners that come from affluent environments and learners that come from maybe low socioeconomic environments. My children, we've moved a lot, so they've been in schools that had tremendous resources. I'm talking that will blow your mind. I'm talking about state-of-the-art educational resources. And then they've been in schools where they didn't have the bare minimum. Their books were old, that the school was out of touch with technology. And so I've been blessed to see both environments and not take it for granted when I'm in an environment that is conducive to the learning and the advancement of young people. The next A is acquire new knowledge. How good they are acquiring new knowledge. When I was in kindergarten, I did not draw triangles very well. In pre-K, I learned to draw a circle and a square and a rectangle, but I wasn't very good at drawing triangles. I had not mastered that skill by the time I got to kindergarten. What about application? Can they apply what you have taught them? Can you teach them a skill and then they apply this skill? You've heard this, reach one and teach one, and then have them teach someone else. So the way that we know that the student has mastery is that they can teach the skill to someone else or they can do it upon command. And then assessment. after we go through this, can we assess that they understand and know exactly what we taught them? Without high quality early education, at-risk children are 25% more likely to drop out of school. So when you see the dropout rate of a high school, it's not just a high school. That rate calculation started when that child was in the pre-K, when they were 4 years old, when they were 3 years old, when they were 2 years old. 40% are more likely to become a teen parent. 50% more likely to become in child in special ed. And 60% more likely to never attend college. 70% more likely to be arrested for a violent crime. And so early childhood educators are in charge of making our world a better place. You want less crime? Let's educate them early. You want fewer teen pregnant parents? Let's educate them early. You want people to graduate from college and go on to do great things in life? Let's educate them early. You want to help with the dropout rate in our country? Let's educate them early. One way to do this is to cover all learning styles. So when you're putting together your lesson plan, and in your lesson plan, you're going to have the lesson title. Out of the lesson title, you're going to have the subject that they're in. Out of that, you're going to have the standard. And you know, the standard, it depending on what grade level you're in and what the standard that you're on, but you're going to have the standard. It have two numbers and a dot, then another number, then a dot, then another letter. This standard is going to break down. It may be R1.K.7. So that last digit would be actually a number and not a letter. So you're going to have all those things on your organized lesson plan. The lesson plan is going to have learning objectives. It's going to have instructional and learning tasks. And of course, the modeling and the direct teaching, what you're going to do. We want you to break these lessons down into small compartments. There's nowhere in the world that a pre-K student can sit for 45 minutes and hear you lecture about colors or about shapes or about math or even about science. And they're very intuitive. They want to know what's going on, but they're going to get bored after a while. They're going to get agitated. They're going to want to move around. And so do your lesson in 10 to 15 minutes and then have them do something else and then come back and do your lesson. If you can get 2 hours of instruction in one day, you're doing an absolutely great job. And there's many ways to get instruction. It's not always a traditional way of sitting down in a circle and giving instruction. There are many ways for children to learn. I want to encourage you to be outside the box. Now, visual. These are 4 basic learning styles. Visual learning, learn through seeing. Some people, you give them an example, you need to see it for them. The teacher needs to have energy. The teacher needs to be animated. Everyone's not a comedian or a public speaker or preacher or orator, but every teacher should be able to captivate the audience they've been given, and that's your classroom. You're the boss of that classroom. You're the principal, the CEO, the president of that classroom. And the difference you make in that classroom is going to change lives. Number 2, auditory, what they hear. Sometimes hearing it is going to help them learn it better. Number 3, tactile, through touching, through feeling it, through it being tangible. That's going to help them learn. Then, of course, kinesthetic learning, all right, learning through moving, through actually doing it. So I want to encourage you to cover all 4 learning styles when trying a new lesson, and don't do what lazy teachers do. Don't blame the students. If they don't get the lesson, don't take the easy way out. I want to encourage you to choose the difficult right over the easy wrong. Don't blame the students. Don't blame the parents. Don't blame the system. Don't blame society. Look in the mirror and say, what can I do better to make sure Johnny understands this lesson? What can I do better to make sure Sarah understands this lesson? I want to encourage you to say, I'm the one that's going to fix this. I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm going to look in the mirror, and that person is going to help me get this right. 3, strategies to add value to early learners. Number 2, a literacy legacy. Now, this may be a new term for you, but I want you to have a legacy of literature. When years from now, when that student thinks of you, they think of books, as Dr. Cathcart talked about, how you can read a book and go to a totally different world. Books are so important. That time when they're sitting there and reading, my wife and I, we brainwashed our daughter and our son. We would be playing TikTok on our phone. Well, back then it was Candy Crush. So we'll have our phone, we'll have a book, and we would, if we didn't want to read, we would pretend to read, and we would have the phone behind the book because we wanted them to think, man, our parents are always reading. Our parents are always into books. And so when they were young, they would actually ask for books for Christmas. For Christmas, not video games, not baby dolls. They would ask for books And as they got older, they read chapter books and series books. Why do I tell you this? Because reading is where it's at. If you develop strong readers, and if you read with great fluency, then you'll be more entertaining than the cell phone. You'll be more entertaining than the internet. You'll be more entertaining than Netflix. If you read with great fluency and great enthusiasm, your students will want you to read more, and more. Literacy legacy. Applying the cultural lens, building high quality lessons with appropriate resources for early learners. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. One problem we have as educators, and I spent 20 years in the classroom, one issue we have is we get so lazy, we don't want to learn and relearn. We don't want to try anything new. We say last year they were talking about Fred Jones, and then they were talking about Common Core, and they were talking about No Child Left Behind. And then we get to the point we forget we got into this for the children. The children deserve your best. I want to encourage you to give your best to the children. BEST as an acronym, B-E-S-T. The B is believe. Believe that every student in your class can learn. Every one of them, regardless of their background, regardless where they come from. I encourage you to believe in them. Unfortunately, their very own parents may not believe in them. Their grandmother, their caretaker may not believe in them. So they need you to believe. The most powerful words ever said is, but my teacher said. No matter what you're doing, my teacher said. I remember being in second grade writing on the back of a piece of paper with the holes on the right instead of the left. And my mother said, well, baby, you need to write with the holes on the left. I said, no, Mom, I've seen words on this side of the paper, so you can start on either side. She says, no, you have to start with them on the left, and if you want, you can complete it by going on the back side, continue your writing. I said, no, Mom, you can start with the holes on either side. It doesn't matter. I go to my second grade class, Miss Brandon, the next day, and she says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm writing on the paper. She says, no, you have to start with the holes on the left. I said, yes, ma'am. To a stranger, I say, yes, ma'am. It's just, you can tell your biological child or the child that's in your house the same thing over and over again. But when a teacher says it, it goes a long way. I want to encourage you to realize the power of a teacher. If you tell that child they're smart, they'll believe it for the rest of their life. On the flip side, if you tell them they're not very smart, they'll believe that as well. You have a lot of power, teachers. What are you going to do with that influence? I hope that you develop a legacy. How a child vocab grows. Now, this is vocabulary words in the number of words. You see 2,600 at the top. Age 1, 0 words, and then age 2, about 300 to 400 words. Age 3, almost right at 1,000 words, and so on and so forth. I show you this because it's important to give them as many words as possible, because these young people will exceed your expectations. I remember my daughter was 3 years old when we were at the pediatric hospital with our pediatrician, Dr. Rahim. And Dr. Rahim said, does she know any words? Maybe she was 2 years old. He said, right now she should be at about maybe 15 or 20 words. I said, oh no, Dr. Rahim, she knows many words. And so we just went through the parts of the body. I touched my nose. She said nose, mouth, tongue, cheek, neck, head, eye, eyebrow, eyelash. Went down, shoulder, chest, tummy, thigh, knee, shin, foot, toe. Like she knew those words. Well, she was blessed to grow up in a home with 2 educators. All of your students won't come from a home with 2 educators. I encourage you to increase their vocabulary by pushing them a little bit. I believe they will meet the bar. If we set the bar low, they'll meet that standard. If we set the bar high, they'll meet that standard. Now, I want to challenge you. This is not going to be comfortable. This is not going to be comfortable, but I want to challenge you to write a book. You should write a book. Listen to me. You should write a book. Why are you saying that? What are you talking about? This is an early childhood education seminar. Why are you listen, you are the perfect candidate. That's right. You're the perfect candidate to write a book. Why? You read books all the time. You need to write a book. I'm telling you, you need to write a book. Why do I say that? Who better to write a book? Who better to write a book than you? You've already read all the books. You know the good ones. You know the ones that are not so good. You need to write a book. I'm telling you. Listen, this is why. You already have the knowledge, okay? Imagine reading your very own book to your classroom. And you want to leave a real legacy of learning? Write a book. It's not very difficult. I've written 11 books now. I'm up to 11 books now. All right. So, and again, not down to myself, but if I can do it, you can do it. All right. The graveyard is full. It's full of ideas, knowledge, stories that we'll never experience. Because they took their book with them. Leaving a legacy of learning for your great-grandchildren and for your students is another reason for you to write. I want to encourage you to go to kdp.com. This is not a promotion for me. I don't get anything out of this. I want to encourage you to go to kdp.com in your spare time, and I want you to explore what it would take for you to write a book. It's not as hard as you think it is. You're the perfect candidate to write a children's book, as I said, and so I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Read with true fluency as you read your own book to your student. Wouldn't that be pretty cool? The first book I wrote, I read to my students, and it was just cool to write in front of them and then read in front of them the book that I wrote. Use your experiences to create a book that produces strong readers, and then create an environment where early learners crave good books. We want early learners to crave good books. That, like Dr. Cathcart said, you can go to another world when you're reading a book. Things aren't going good right now, you can go to a whole nother world. As Dr. Shipley said, our daughter at the age of 15, she's 16 now. At the age of 15 years old, she wrote a book. She wrote it during the pandemic. I encourage her to get off TikTok, get off that cell phone, turn off the Netflix, stop binge watching Grey's Anatomy, and do something a little more productive. And she blew my mind by writing a book. It's called Spears Makes Her Point. You can find it on Amazon. I tell you that not for promotion reasons, but to let you know that the reason that she had the confidence to write a book is not because her dad, not because her mom was a school counselor, not because of her grandmother who's a 42-year educator, not because of her other grandmother who works in education as well, but because of a teacher. A teacher. She had a teacher in middle school who told her she was a strong writer. And I've told her that several times, but the most powerful words are, my teacher said. A teacher believed in my daughter, and my daughter has now accomplished a goal at the tender age of 15 that many people want to accomplish. Now, she has a long ways to go. She wants to go to college, and we got to get the ACT score up, and she has a lot more goals that she's trying to go over to Italy for a foreign exchange program next year. So we're scared to death about that, but we're so proud of her for writing that book, and I know you can too. Who's your favorite teacher? Put it in the chat for me. Who's your favorite teacher? Back in the day, last week, it could be college, it could be pre-K, it could be 5th grade, middle school, high school. Who was your favorite teacher? Please put their name in the chat and tell us why. Tell us why they were your favorite teacher. Who's your favorite teacher and why? All right, Ms. Dunlap, Ms. Nolan, okay. Your mom, I bet she was. I bet that's a smart answer. Art teacher in high school. All right, tell me why. Tell me why, Latin teacher, she believed in you. I like that. English teacher, all right. Who else? Who was your favorite teacher and why? All right, she was special ed teacher, okay. All right, he pushed me. All right, Mr. Willie Mitchell, all right, 3rd grade teacher. She believed in all her students. Awesome. She was kind. She was compassionate. That's awesome. That's great. She said there were no bad children, only bad days. She was just so loving. Wow. This is great. College English teacher. And so we all, anytime I ask this question, I've never had anyone say, oh, I didn't have a favorite teacher. I've never had anyone say, I can't answer that question. We all have had a favorite teacher. The downside of that is we've all had a teacher that we didn't like. If I asked you to name the teacher that you didn't like, you would be very quick to put that name out as well because it's on the front of your mind. I want to encourage you to be the teacher you just named. I want to encourage you to do the things that you just mentioned about that teacher. Those same characteristics, I want to encourage you to exemplify those characteristics in your classroom. Someone said, he pushed me. Someone said she believed in all of us. Someone said, she said there were no bad students, only bad days. I want to encourage you just to be that. If you get nothing else out of this presentation today, just be that. Be that for someone's child. I want you to be your best. Best as an acronym. B is believe in every child. The E is educate every child. Every child deserves an education. Educate every child that walks in your classroom. The S is sacrifice. I want to encourage you to sacrifice what you want to do what's easy for you, for what's best for the classroom. And the last T, the T is try, the last letter. Just try. With the kid that doesn't do right, just try. The one that shows up, just try. Try to do extra. Try to go above and beyond. Try to do what the administration asks you to do. Try this new way. I know you can do it. What I realize is Taylor Grace, our daughter, and Kenneth, our son, is the very best thing we have. Better than a car, better than a house, better than money, better than a phone, better than technology. The greatest thing that ever happened to me is my children. And so when school started yesterday, I gave my very best to some stranger, actually to 16 different strangers. They both have 8 classes and no classes together. I'm giving my best to a stranger. Now, if I'm honest with you, if that stranger asked to borrow my lawnmower, I'll probably say no. If that stranger said, hey, can I borrow your car for a week? I'll probably say no. If that stranger said, do you mind if I use your laptop? I'll probably say no. I don't know them. I don't even work with them. I don't know their names, but I'm trusting them with my very best. Parents are giving you their very best, especially at a young age. You know this. When the children are young, we're overprotective. You all seen that commercial when the baby, and she has the baby and the mom has the baby, it's her first child, and she won't let anybody touch the baby, not even her own husband. She has to get away. Then she has a second child. She's getting her oil changed. She hands a baby to a mechanic with oil all over his hands so she can get money out of her purse. With that first child, with those little bitty babies, sometimes we're overprotective. Someone is giving you their best. I encourage you to give them your best. Since some parent is giving you their best, I want to encourage you to give your best, just like your favorite teacher did for you. We all had a favorite teacher. Be that favorite teacher. This is me back in the day, baby. Look at me. Ha ha. It's before the gray hair now. That's a cute joker right there. Handsome boy. He looking good. My son wish he looked that handsome. A teacher will impact more lives in 1 year than most people will their entire lifetime. A teacher will impact more lives in 1 year than most people will their entire lifetime. You're going to make a tremendous impact this year. A tremendous impact. Last year was not fun for any of us. But what we learned is not to take this opportunity for granted, because it could be taken away. I want to encourage you to realize your opportunity to change lives every single day. The schoolhouse is the safest place that some kids come to. It's safer than home. It's nicer than home. It smells better than home. It's a better environment. And even kids who come from a great home, they may not get pushed the way they do in your classroom. They may not be around people who are different than them, like they're going to be in the real world. I want to encourage you to know that a teacher will impact more lives in 1 year than most people will their entire lifetime. 3 strategies to add value to early learners. The last one is classroom culture. Classroom culture is so important. All right. So classroom culture, it's important to see cultural and linguistic differences as resources, not as deficits. Research says children's learning is facilitated when teaching practices, curricula, and learning environments build on children's strength and are developmentally, culturally, and linguistically appropriate for each child. What that means in a nutshell is embrace the differences of your classroom. Now, what we're going to talk about now is a kind of a heavy topic, something that people don't like to talk about, but it's needed. We need to talk about it because we need to make sure we're part of the solution and not the problem. My biggest pet peeve as an administrator was when a teacher would come to me with the problem, but no possible solutions. She would tell me what was wrong, but she wouldn't give me any advice on how to fix it. She would tell me what we should be doing, but she wouldn't tell me how we should be doing it. I want to encourage you to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Anybody can bring a problem to surface to everyone's attention, but have you thought about a solution? Just help us out. We don't have all the answers, but we all have the same goal, and that's to reach every child. Building relationships. In that first few days of school, you want to build relationships and you want to build your culture, your routines, your rituals, if you will. They need to know when we walk in class, we put our bags down here, we stand over here, our lunchbox goes over here, we stand behind our chair for the plate. And they need to know those first few days of school, you're going to build those relationships and you're going to build those routines or those rituals that you do every single day. Those things are important because they're going to help you throughout the entire year. If your students know the expectations, if they know the routines, you're going to have a much better year. There are many rewards for teaching. There are many rewards for teachers who take culture into account. You can form authentic, caring relationships with children and families, build connections between what children already know and what they need to know, select activities, materials, and instructional strategies that honor children's cultures. This is important now, their life experiences, and teach children the skills they need to succeed in a global society. Now, this is the University of Arizona global campus. Now, check this out. I've lived in Florida, North Florida, which is very, very different than South Florida. We're more like Alabama than Orlando or Miami. I lived in North Florida. I've lived in Central Florida. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in Alabama. I've lived in Oklahoma. I've lived in Boise, Idaho. I lived in Rochester, New York. I've lived in a lot of different places. And what I've learned is every place I lived had one thing in common. They had people there. And regardless of how different the people were, at the end of the day, they were all part of one incredible race. Maybe different races, but we all were one incredible race. I want to remind you that the world is changing, okay? We have a global society now. We're on a call with the University of Arizona Global Campus. What that means is it's not a traditional campus. It's not a brick and mortar traditional campus where everybody lives in the neighborhood or in the surrounding areas and go to work in the same place. These are people from all over the country, all over the world coming together to learn, to grow, and to become better at educating young people. Our country is changing. The United States is projected to be a majority minority by 2045. So the things that we could say 20 years ago, we could joke about 20 years ago, we could maybe fathom 20 years ago, things have changed. Our classrooms have changed. The environment has changed. What we have to realize, just because we're not alike doesn't mean we're not alike. What I mean by that, you and I may be different genders, but we all want the child to learn. We may be different races, we may be from different places, we may be different ages, but we all want the child to learn. So we have to put aside our differences for the excitement, betterment, and opportunity for the child. Here's a map of currently. This is 2021. In 2045, it's going to look totally different. Those gray states, if you will, are states that are majority Caucasian, non-Hispanic, white, as we would call it. The orange of less than 50% of the population is white, and the yellow or khaki or beige is less than 60%. Why do I show you this? Because as things change, we must change. Somebody really smart once said, be the change you want to see. So if you want people to be treated better, then we have to treat each other better as well. Why do I say that? Because our classroom changes, and our classroom needs to mirror the changes in society so that our students can learn and be comfortable knowing that our world is changing. How do you build relationships? That's a question people always ask. Well, how do you build relationships? I only have so much time in class. What can I do to build relationships? Here are some tips to build relationships with your students. Know this, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When their mom is sick and you say, I'm sorry your mom's sick. When their brother is away or their father is deployed or their granny is in the hospital and you say, I'm sorry to hear about your granny. Or you say, happy birthday. Imagine having your teacher's aide or your pet professional write down the birthdays every Monday of everyone that has a birthday that week. And the people who have a birthday in the summer, you do that right when school gets back in, or you do that at the end of the school year. That shows them that you care, that they're much more than a student to you. They wear that football team on their shirt. You say, I didn't know you were an Arizona fan. I didn't know you were an Oklahoma fan. I didn't know you were a Miami fan. I didn't know you were an OU fan. You like football. Do you like to hunt? Do you like to fish? Tell that little girl her hair is nice. Tell that young man that you like his shoes. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Learn the names of the parents and the correct pronunciation. Miss Catcar was on the call. Her name doesn't look like that to me phonetically, but I know it's important to Dr. Catcar that we call her by her correct name. It shows someone you care when you know their name. They may not be from the same country you're from. They may not be from the same area. They may have a last name that's hard to pronounce. You show you care by learning the correct pronunciation of their parent's name and learning their name and their parent's name, which in today's society may not be the same last name. When you got to give bad news, pair resentment with an appreciation. Lead with good news. If you have to tell I'm gonna tell you about this one child. Now, this child was bad. Now, I know somebody said this earlier. There's no bad children, there's bad days. This child was bad. Please forgive me. I'm just telling the truth. This child was bad. This child will bite someone every day. They will bite, like literally bite. 3 years old, biting someone every day. That's a bad child. And that child is my wife's child, Taylor Grace Spears. Now, when she wrote the book, she was my child. You know, when she wrote the book, she's my child. But when she was in pre-K, biting those kids, she was my wife's child. My daughter used to bite kids in pre-K. I don't know where she get that from. Well, I do know she get it from her mama. But I say that to say, when Miss Vanessa had to give us the bad news that Taylor kept biting this kid named Cash, she was smart enough to put a resentment, the biting, with an appreciation. She would say, Taylor's so smart. Taylor's a good student. However, Taylor needs to stop biting Cash. So when you got to give bad news, I want to encourage you to pair resentment with an appreciation. Lead with the good news. Communicate often in various forms. Don't wait till something bad happens to call the parent. If you've heard from another teacher that this child is going to be a handful, go ahead and call the parent ahead of time. Go ahead and build that relationship. Go ahead and build that equity, if you will, with the parent. Why is that important? That's important because you wanted the parent to be on your side. Talk to students about non-school related activities, even though they're 4 years old, even though they're 3 years old. Talk, what'd you do this summer? You guys went on vacation. How was that? Find a way to build relationships by talking about non-school related things. Let them teach you about their interests. Maybe every once in a while, have Johnny stand up. Johnny, tell us what's your favorite color and why? What's your favorite cartoon and why? What's your favorite food and why? Do you like striped shirts better or solid shirts better? Do you like round shapes better or triangle shapes? Like, let them talk to you, and then be serious and silly often. I want to encourage you not to take yourself too serious. Life is too short. All right, now there's some racial inequities in preschool discipline. Black students, especially boys, are disproportionately more likely than their white peers to face multiple suspensions from preschool. You just need to know this. You don't need to go around saying he looks this way, so I'm gonna treat him this way, but just know that those statistics are out there regardless of what data you look at. Any quantitative data will show you that these results are similar across the board. And then it goes all the way up to the criminal justice system. Why do I tell you that? Because I believe early childhood education teachers can change the entire world, That's how much power you have. Now, a harmonious culture in the classroom. This is going to help you right here now. It's going to help you. I hope you're paying attention. A harmonious culture in the classroom. Does our classroom signage and verbiage, does it make all students feel included? Now, if you grew up a certain way, it's easy for you to have a bias toward the way you grew up. If you're into sports, you may think everyone's into sports. If you're in the music, you may think everyone's into music. If you're into art, you may think everyone's into art. Your class is different. They're coming from much different environments. What if they have a guardian that's disabled and nothing on your wall throughout the entire school year? I'm not saying every day, but when you change the decoration in your room, you never have a person in a wheelchair. So that makes them think my grandmother must be weird. Something must be wrong with my grandmother, because I never see anything that's in my classroom like my grandmother. What if the child has two parents of the same gender? What if they have two males as their parents or two females as their parents? All right? Now, I'm not trying to change your way of thinking. I'm letting you know the world has changed and your students are coming to your class with different norms than you and I grew up with. What if one of my parents are incarcerated? What if you have a child and they have a parent incarcerated and you have a lesson where you talk negatively about people who are incarcerated? Be aware as you build relationships, you'll get to know your students so you can be sensitive to those topics. What if I'm big for my age? Shaquille O'Neal tells a story of how uncomfortable he was in kindergarten. Now, Shaquille O'Neal is 7'1", 7 foot 1 inch tall. He weighs over 300 pounds as a grown man. You could imagine how big he was in kindergarten. He said he was taller than the teacher. And although now in the NBA, when he was playing, that was a good thing. When he was in kindergarten, that was not a good thing. Everybody made fun of him. They thought that he failed a grade. They said he must be dumb. They said that that he's bigger than the teacher, that he's older than the teacher. And this was very cruel to him. So if you have a student that's bigger than everyone, they may be a little, have way more. They may be taller. You need to be sensitive to those things when you are developing your classroom culture. What if they're poor? What if they wear the same shoes every day or the same pants every day? What if they fall down on the playground and they get very dirty, and the next day they come in with the exact same outfit on and it's still dirty because they don't have a washer and dryer, because their parents weren't able to wash their clothes? Maybe they may not have running water. Maybe they don't have the things that you have at your home, and students may make fun of them. Be aware of that. What if they're the odd one out? My children would always say, we go out to a restaurant to eat, 3 of us get sweet tea, 1 get lemonade, I'm the odd one out. 3 of us get Coke, 1 of us get Sprite, I'm the odd one out. Children think that way. What if they're the odd one out? What I mean is, you have a classroom and every one of your classroom is one particular race. And then there's one student that's a different race. Now I'm gonna tell you what I've learned from my own children. Children don't see that. They don't know that. Be wise enough to know that those things don't matter, but however, their parents may be sensitive to the fact that they're the only poor person in the class, or maybe the only rich kid, or the person that's the only girl, or the only boy, or the only really small kid. Kids don't like to be small. My son was really sick and lost a lot of weight. He was the smallest kid in his class, and people would say to him, you need to eat more. What's wrong with you? You need some meat on your bones. He didn't like that. So be mindful when you're building the culture of your classroom. I've written several books. I've written a children's book called Who Was Hawk Massalina? This book walks you through this man named Hawk Massalina, who happens to be my great-grandfather. He was the first African-American to live in Panama City, Florida. He was best friends with a guy named George Mortimer West. Hawk Massalina was a minority. Some would say black, others would say he was Spanish, but he was non-white. His best friend, George Mortimer West, was a white man. George Mortimer West actually gave Panama City, Florida, its name. He came from Wisconsin and also had a house in Chicago. He settled in this area. He and Hawk became best buddies. And I wrote a book not only about their relationship, but about the great life that Hawk lived. He was a very interesting man. He lived to be 107 years old. He had 8 children after the age of 70, and he was married twice to 2 different women with the same middle name, Ha Bell and Mary Bell Smith. His first wife died after 50 years, and then he had no children from that union. Second wife, she died when she was in her early 30s. So he outlived both of them. Like I said, he lived to be 107 years old. He had 8 children. One of those was my grandmother. She was the youngest, Helen. Helen, he had 7 children, I'm sorry. Helen had 11 children. One of those 11 was my father. And my father had 1 child, because once you get it right, there's no need to have any more children. I want to read this book. I would love to read it to your classroom on Zoom maybe one day. And if your birthday is this month, I want to send you a free copy of any one of my books. Culture Creators talks a little bit about what I talked about today, and Who Was Hawk Massalina is a children's book. So if your birthday is this month, I want to send you a free book. You can give me your email address in the chat, or you can go to my website, williespears.com, and just send me an email, and I'll mail you a book out today. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. Are there any questions?